Los Originales Community Health Worker Radio.
Hello, good morning, good evening to everyone. I am very happy because today we are going to have a bilingual program, and also we brought people that is expert in communication, and we are going to have two representatives of our sponsor and faithful partners from We Are DA, the work with Washington Department of Health. Good morning, Ernesto.
Hey, traducción en español entonces.
Sí. We have also the privilege to have Ernesto. Ernesto is going to be here and he's going to translate everything. ¿Cómo estás, Ernesto? Quiero que te presentes al público.
Hola, pues soy Ernesto. Voy a estar traduciendo esta vez, así que voy a traducir lo que compartió la doctora Eliana Ponce. Y bienvenidos, estamos aquí con dos de nuestros fundadores de uno de nuestros programas. Se los voy a presentar. Una es Elizabeth y una es Shireen. Did I pronounce it right? Your name? Shireen, right? Okay, perfect. Okay, gracias. Bueno, con Shireen y Elizabeth, ellas nos van a estar diciendo más y vamos a estar compartiéndoles todo acerca de este programa.
Así es, Ernesto. Entonces, vamos a darle la bienvenida a nuestras invitadas especiales. Empecemos con Shireen. Oh, hi, Shireen. How are you?
Hi, thanks, Eliana, for having me. I'm doing well today.
Hola, mi nombre es Shireen y estoy muy bien hoy.
Gracias, Shireen. The pleasure is ours. And now we are going to introduce you, colleague Elizabeth. Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
Hello, I'm well. Thank you for having me.
Hola, y ahora les voy a presentar a su colega, Elizabeth Cronin.
Exactly. Here we are because we are going to talk about communication. As you know, communication is very important for everyone because we have communication. We cannot telling people what we want. And the communication can be not only in talk, but eyes can communicate. Visual communication is very important. Listen communication is very important. And we're using all our tag to communicate, I believe we're using the five senses, listen, watching, touching, and sometimes, other perception that maybe we are not allowed.
Hoy vamos a estar hablando de la comunicación, que es muy importante, los medios de comunicación en específico y también sobre cómo podemos obtener más información, ya sea de otros tipos de medios de comunicaciones o ya sea nuestro sistema mental que podemos escuchar, podemos ver, podemos hablar y otros tipos de sentidos.
Thank you, Ernesto. Elizabeth, I'm going to start with you or Shireen. My question is, how do you think, what is the role that communication play now with the pandemic? Because it has been very difficult for all the community to communicate, especially, the issue of the pandemic. What did you experience in that sense?
Yeah, thank you. I'll jump in here, and Elizabeth, feel free to jump in as you'd like. I think communications has been a big part of, the pandemic. Really, for everyone, we've had to shift from less face-to-face communication to all these different digital platforms to stay connected. And it's really been challenging and such a shift for everyone, especially knowing that not every community has the same access to information. And so it's really been our focus to ensure that communities through trusted message carriers can have the great information about COVID guidance around vaccination as well, and make that really easy to understand for communities. Elizabeth, what about you? Anything you'd jump in? to share?
Yeah, I'd also mention that as different waves of the pandemic have risen and fallen, and as the community has gone back to school, gone back to work, changed some of their activities, that we have lots of updates to make, that the communications aren't done once we spread the first message. There are so many changes to share as well.
Yes.
Lo que nos compartieron es que ha habido muchos cambios e impactaciones cuando ocurrió COVID en los sistemas de comunicación, y también siguen cambiando, ya que ha habido fases y fase sobre fase del COVID-19, y también seguirá cambiando el sistema de comunicaciones, como las comunicaciones afectan y cómo nos sirven desde el hogar o desde la escuela en persona.
Thank you so much. And I wanted to tell that there are people that is participating in our chat, and I wanted to say that Blanquita is telling good evening to everyone, and she say hello from Sunnyside, and also Melissa say welcome, Elizabeth Ashirin. And thank you so much for listening to us, and I know that it's going to be more people participating. And then I know that you had many, how many organization you have been helping through the Washington DOA to communicate, a special population like us, that we are Latinx and we're working specific with migrant and refugee. How many other organizations you work with that we can be possible to accomplish, the big thing that is to get the truth to our community about COVID-19?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this program that DH has partnered with the Washington State Department of Health on, what we've been working on since October of 2020, and it's still going today. And we have you as our great partner, but we also have, I think, almost 115 other community partner organizations that are supporting this effort. And so really been great to reach several different communities across the state. We're reaching audiences that may identify as Black and African American, as having disabilities, as being part of the LGBTQ plus community, Pacific Islander communities, and former Soviet Union communities. So just so many different individuals who may not have had the same access to COVID information as maybe larger communities. And so really want to ensure that our community partners can be reaching them and supporting them, and happy to stand behind and assist them with technical support as we go.
Wonderful.
Y ellos han tenido partners de colaboración con quienes ellos han colaborado. Han colaborado con más de 115 organizaciones en el estado de Washington para los grupos minorías, ya sea gente negra, descendientes de Estados Unidos, gente negra de otras partes del mundo, afrolatinos, afroamericanos, isleños del Pacífico, indígenas y todo ese tipo de grupos que necesitan más ayuda o que tal vez no han sido apoyados como deberían de ser, o a comparación de los grupos largos de Estados Unidos.
I wanted to congratulate both of you, because your organization have done a great, great impact in our community of color. And the fact that you told me that it's 105 people that you have been working reflect about the professionalism and the capacity you have to orient all of us to get the truth in the first place. I can translate that. I'm going to say that I feel so honored to work with all of you, porque ustedes están colaborando con 115 organizaciones y eso pues se le rinde honores, porque no es fácil trabajar con la comunidad y saber que ustedes están llegando ahí con toda su información para nosotros es muy importante. I wanted to also say another commentary from Maria Choquerunta. She is listening to us from Olympia, and she say, welcome everyone, and thank you for your support of the community. Before we continue with this important information and comment, I wanted to see one of the videos that we have produced with you. I wanted to see if we can play one of this.
COVID-19 es un virus chiquito que quería destrozar el mundo. Se metió en un cuerpo de una persona y contagió a muchas personas más. Y ustedes sabían que ya casi está por todo el mundo. Tenemos que cuidarnos, comer fuerte y hacernos saludables, comer manzanas y frutas. Ya se me borró el virus.
And this is one of the campaign that we have with you last year is getting the vaccine is loving yourself, and you see that is a daughter of our worker. She is so lovely, and the way that we produce education material is we training our community health workers, and they training member of the community with the truth, but at the same time we made them to make this like a family, the children and adults can participate, and they are artists, they never knowing that they were able to communicate that information, and people believe because it's not us, it's not you telling us how to do a good job, and we doing that, and this is what I love it. And I wanted to thank you for that, Ernesto.
Quería darle las gracias a los fundadores por todo ese proyecto. Los niños y los participantes están mostrándonos cómo reflejar los síntomas, los apoyos del COVID-19 y es un honor estar trabajando con ustedes.
Yes, thank you. Another question that I have is for you. From communication, what do you recommend to all non-profit organizations that work with people that maybe they don't have access to communication, and the access that they have is now, that we have a phone. In Latino community, we see a lot of phone call. This is how sometimes we do in our workshop, we really reach people that doesn't have maybe TV or computer, but they have a phone. And also this radio was created by the need of communicate our community in style of COVID-19. This is the reason, and now it's completely dedicated 100% to health education. It's not really a commercial radio. We are very honored to say that this is a community educational radio. And Ernesto, you wanted to translate that question?
La pregunta que ¿qué recomendarían a las organizaciones chicas como nosotros? Y también que como... ¿Qué era lo que dijo, doctora, al último?
Sí.
Lo que dijo al último.
Yes. What they recommend to people that didn't have access to... Entonces, ¿qué recomendarían a las personas que no tienen acceso, verdad, a una computadora, pero sí tienen un teléfono o pueden ser una radio? Esta radio ha sido formada por eso, ¿verdad? Porque había mucha gente que no podía escuchar la comunicación. Then, what do you recommend? I would like to hear from both of you because I know that you are very expert in this material.
Yeah, thank you, Eliana. I would share really, through this program, our goal is to make sure that communities feel empowered with information and education to make great choices about their health, especially COVID-19, as that's impacting all of us. And so, in terms of what we might recommend to nonprofits, we know that nonprofit organizations or community-based organizations and community media really have the pulse on what is important to their community, and they have the trust, right? And a big part of this program has been leveraging these trusted message carriers, you as community organizations, to reach your communities with the messages that will resonate, and through the platforms and areas that people are going to connect. So it might look really different over the course of the pandemic. I'm sure, Elizabeth, you could even speak to, as community partners have been in different phases of the pandemic, relied on different kinds of tactics. but just so important that, we're lifting up community partners to be the ones to make those decisions for their community. Elizabeth, did you want to add more?
I'll add after Ernesto takes a moment to translate, I think.
Thank you. Lo que ella comentaba es que están tratando de levantar las comunidades a poco, están tratando de ayudarlos y ellos están dejando que las organizaciones tomen la rienda de cómo llevar los recursos a sus comunidades. You can go ahead, Alice.
Yeah, so as Shireen said, the most important thing is that the messages are trusted and that the messengers are trusted. And through this program, what we've been able to do is to help each of those messengers really maximize whatever channel it is that they have for communicating with the public. And that happens in every single community. It's always different how people are hearing from others in their community. And so our work has been to just help them make that as clear and as wide as it possibly can be. For example, with some of the partners that I work with, the best way for them to reach the people they serve is paper flyers, notices going in food bank, food distribution boxes. Sometimes that's the best way. And so we'll help them produce some really interesting and easy to read documents in their language that go out that way. I've also helped some partners who are serving the houseless community who are in tent encampments and they don't have reliable cell phones. They don't have technological access. And so in that case, we've helped the partner produce just little cards with a phone number on it, and they've distributed battery packs for cell phones so that when a person is able to charge their phone, they can call the partner to say, hey, I have a question about COVID protection or vaccines. So whatever it is, we help them do it to the best of their ability.
Ok, lo que ella está diciendo es que cada quien tiene diferentes maneras de comunicarse con su región o con su gente, con la población que están tratando de ayudar. Y varias maneras es de que una persona puede usar los medios sociales, otra persona está usando papeles, otra persona está usando cartitas que le llegan a sus casas o a los centros de comida, bancos de distribución de comida, y es la manera que le funciona a la gente, es la manera que le funciona mejor, porque no toda la gente puede acceder a la tecnología o no tiene lo suficiente conocimiento para acceder a la tecnología o a los servicios sociales, a los medios de comunicación.
Thank you, Ernesto. Thank you, Shireen, and thank you, Elizabeth. We have more people, joining us, and we have Lucila Ramírez. Lucía, un beso, un abrazo. Ella siempre nos escucha. Buenas tardes, doctora Ponce. Un placer saludarla y felicitarla por sus invitados desde Colombia. We have people from Colombia, and she is Lucia, and she said, welcome to every one of you for being here in this channel. And un beso to these people so beautiful from Cali, Colombia. Carmencita, la señora Carmen, she always are connecting with us, and she say, good evening, Dr. Ponce, and a blessing and a big hug to all these people from the Colombia and everyone who has. Thank you, señora Carmen, todas mis bendiciones con usted. Y tenemos Norma Castillos, welcome to everyone, y Martínez Betis, she say, hello, Shireen and Elizabeth, thank you for the information. Yeah, it's very interesting to listen to you, because this is widows, you have a widow, because what you tell is true, some people go to the center for food, and they have only the bags and they have to distribute some information faster. And I like the idea of people that doesn't have phone to get in the car And in this way, when they have a chat or some, mobile phone that they can buy, they can contact an organization that can give them information, and this is a lot of knowledge. What is the most, from all these organization, how you can measure the impact to working with one 15 organization? Before you answer, I wanted to say, I can make the impact for the people that we are impacting for the program that we have with you, and we are the age. We have we're using all the platform. We're using Gusto. We have using radio communication. We also using TV, like Chido TV, like Univision TV. And we're using the Facebook, the LinkedIn, the Twitter. And the accumulation of all that, plus the fact that we are a no-profit 501c3 statewide, I say with your program, we have been helping more than 500,000 people per year, because the impact that they listen. And I'm going to give you an example. In the previous one, we do a jar sign with information we producing about COVID-19, and they say, if you get the vaccine for you, that you love you and your family. And then, that was great, because my neighbor, he didn't believe in vaccination. And he said every time that he passed my house and he read that jar sign, he feel bad. And then, unfortunately, the brother or his wife died, and he get the vaccine. And he said part of this is to see my jar sign there, and it's impact. We impact people. We have no either telling anything. Ernesto?
Este programa está haciendo un gran impacto con todas las comunidades y las organizaciones que han apoyado. Uno de los impactos que la doctora ha visto personalmente es cuando en el programa tuvieron los pósters en el patio, y tienen que mostrando, dando información del COVID-19, dando información de cómo vacunarte y dónde vacunarte en este póster de la yarda o del jardín. Y uno de sus vecinos, un familiar de sus vecinos de la doctora, no creía en la vacuna, no se quería vacunar. Desafortunadamente le pasó algo al hermano de esa persona, y desde ese momento ahora su logo, su moto del señor es de que él se puso la vacuna para poder ver este signo, este póster en la yarda, en el jardín de la doctora, y es muy impactante, porque sí impacta a la gente, impacta a las personas que no creían que pueden vacunarse, porque la vacuna te salva la vida.
Well, thank you for that question. I'll jump in, and Elizabeth, again, feel free to jump in too. I would say that for this community media outreach program that's focused on COVID-19 communications, the impact is measured in so many different ways. Like we shared earlier, there's a lot of different ways that these community organizations that are our partners in the program are thinking of ways to reach their community and are measuring the impact of that. And so I think, of course, the focus more recently in the past year or so has been on increasing vaccinations across communities to ensure that communities are staying safer against COVID-19, ensuring that communities understand the latest guidelines and recommendations. And so that can be measured in a lot of ways, right? We can measure the number of vaccinations that community partners might report out for their community, but we can also hear stories about how communities are receiving the vaccine, right? Or also hear stories about how they might be feeling if they have any hesitancy or concerns. Those are all so really important measures of ensuring that communities are better understanding COVID-19, understanding the vaccine, understanding the therapeutic options that there are now, and really, feeling comfortable in their healthcare decisions. So in this program, it can be measured so many ways, but just so grateful to the partners for all the different work they're doing to reach their communities across the state.
La pregunta era de cómo podemos incrementar o cómo han visto el incremento de impacto en sus comunidades de los medios de comunicación. Y ella comentó que se puede medir de muchas maneras, se puede medir el impacto de muchas maneras y se puede medir de ninguna manera, porque hay muchos impactos y es muy imposible medirlos, pero el impacto más es viendo los niveles de vacunación, viendo los incrementos de módulos de vacunaciones y clínicas de vacunaciones que han impactado mucho. También ha habido muchos otros tipos de mediciones que pueden medirlos por campaña y todo eso.
Thank you, Ernesto. Also, we have more people that is joining, and we have Jacqueline Ponce from Maryland. She say, welcome, Ernesto, and also she have another say, good evening, Dr. Ponce, and say hello to all you guests of this day. Thank you, Jacqueline. She always listen to us, and we are very happy that this program not only is being listened in Washington, but because we use in the media communication, it's also international, and we are very happy. I wanted to tell you that one of the benefits, in addition what Shireen say about this, is not only that the people has been vaccinated, but it's the people that's getting the truth about the vaccine. Because you have been critical for the misinformation, there are a lot of misinformation, and we don't have the Department of Washington, the CDC, clarify what is the really true, because I believe the misinformation targeting Latinos and African American or people in the low income, because we are easy maybe to believe misinformation, or spread the misinformation. And I learned a lot about misinformation before this program. And one of these is not talking about the misinformation, because you are advertising the misinformation. And I believe this is a point that from all this campaign that I love the most, because, sometimes you don't know that you also have been using for the misinformation people to spread that misinformation. And Ernesto, it's like a trabalenguas, what I say, but maybe you can translate that.
Okay. Pues las verdades y los mitos son los que han podido ayudar a la gente que se guíe más, y los programas educativos que estamos dando y los folletos, los pruebas, y es lo que está ayudando más. Doctora, sí vamos a poder tener que tomar como un poquito de más espacio cada que pregunte y que ellas pregunten.
Exacto. Entonces, como dijo Ernesto, ¿verdad? Las pruebas, pero no solo eso. Lo más importante de esta campaña que yo he mirado es que hemos aprendido que la misinformación que recibimos no la debemos de repetir, porque entre más repetimos nos convertimos en unos instrumentos para repetir esa mala información. Entonces lo mejor es ignorarla y repetir el fact, lo que realmente es. And I want both of you to give me one example or one misinformation that we should not repeat, and how to answer. Okay, and I wanted to, whoever feeling that you can do that, please go ahead. Entonces les hice la pregunta a las muchachas de que me den un ejemplo de una misinformación que no tenemos que repetir y cómo vamos a contestar. Entonces.
Well, I know that some of the communications that I've helped partners with, one thing that we've done has been to, look at what is a lot of the misinformation in the public, and then in our communicating to start with what's true, and to avoid repeating right away, what the information is that's false. One of those common ones has to do with what are the ingredients in the vaccines. And so when we're communicating, we say that in the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, the ingredients are mRNA, which doesn't go into the nucleus of a cell, doesn't change your DNA. And then the other ingredients are fats, sugars, and some preservatives that are also found in foods and cosmetics. Sometimes we'll also acknowledge, you may have heard that there's some other crazy stuff in the vaccines, but that's not true. All that's in there are the fats, the sugars, the preservatives, and the mRNA. And that helps us to not accidentally reiterate or amplify the false information. Sometimes that will also be called the sandwich approach to describing what's true, where you start with what's accurate, you acknowledge in the middle what's not true, and then you re-emphasize the part that's true. So that the false information is like in the middle of the sandwich.
Okay. Uno de los ejemplos es empezar con la verdad, es lo que mencionó Elizabeth, empezar con la verdad de los ingredientes. La gente le tiene miedo más a los ingredientes que está en la vacuna. Uno de los ingredientes de lo que está formado la vacuna es mRNA, que es algo que se multiplica, pero no se incrusta a su sistema de su ADN. No se incrusta su ADN y los demás ingredientes son conservativos que se encuentran en la comida, azúcares y entre otros tipos de sulfatos y todo ese tipo de cosas. La doctora puede explicar más, que ella sabe más de mRNA.
Gracias, Ernesto, lo tradujiste muy bien y solo me gustó lo que dijo Elizabeth del sándwich, ¿ya? Entonces, si ustedes escuchan una información que no es correcta, primero empiecen con la verdad. Como ella dijo, bueno, si alguien dice cuáles son los ingredientes, ¿verdad? Y ellos dicen que es DNA y del virus y que por eso les va a dar el virus o cosas así. Entonces no digan, es una RNMA que es un mensajero, ¿ya? Es una partícula donde se une el virus para entrar a la célula. Entonces, esta es una pequeña partícula, ¿verdad?, que va a bloquear eso para que el virus entre a la célula, ¿ya? Pero no es el virus y eso no quiere decir que ustedes van a tener parte del virus porque es una molécula que evita, ¿ya?, que entre, ¿verdad? Un receptor, digamos, que para eso. Y entonces empiezan con la verdad. Después pueden al medio en el sándwich decir, bueno, tal vez tú has escuchado, ¿verdad?, que te transforma el DNA, pero no es cierto. Y después finaliza con la verdad. Además del mensajero, lo que tiene son otros componentes que tienen otras vacunas o otros medicamentos como son las grasas y para entrar más rápido a la célula, ¿verdad? Pero no es nada diferente. I love it, the sandwich. It's first time that I listen. We do it, but we don't know. I didn't know that in communication they say. Entonces, toda mi gente linda, a hablar con el sándwich. Tenemos también a otra participante que quiere saludarnos y yo sé que ella viene desde King County. We have a Claudia Padilla. Y ella dice, thank you so much for that information. Thank you, Sandra, Claudita, por estar acá. Entonces, thank you. And I wanted to hear in you, Shirin. Elizabeth, wow, it's very interesting. And thank you for that sandwich recipe.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think, Elizabeth, your example is really great. And really, speaks to so many different kinds of platforms or ways that we can share that type of message. So, that might be in a flyer, or it might be in, just an informational piece for a community. It might even be that, as you're in a faith setting, that someone that you trust is sharing that information in that way. So I feel like, really so many ways that sort of method, that sandwich method, can be used, and truly, a lot of other ways that we've been using it. I know DOH developed the Mentira Mariachi spot, which I know we're partnering with you on to get feedback on and expand that spot to include even more myths and how to address those. And so, there's also ways to make this sort of information very interesting, very fun and hopefully, more easy for folks to digest too. So it could be a flyer, but it could also be a song. There's just so many different ways to kind of share that important information with community and work to address those myths, because that is just such an important component of working to understand what are people concerned about or confused about, and how can we provide them the real information from sources that we know are trusted, that we know are accurate, and allow them to help make those healthcare decisions for themselves.
Okay, que dijo que es lo que igual lo que dijo Elizabeth, también mencionó lo mismo, el mismo modo, que también hay que combatir qué es lo que la misinformación, los conceptos que da la gente, hablar de las realidades, no de las misinformaciones, y déjame ver que aquí tengo mis escrituras. Y como si dijo que empezar con la verdad, doctora, le paso el mando.
Sí. And there, it's very important the way that the people do say that, and can be, there is no like one pattern that you can do, you can talk tú lo puedes decir en diferentes maneras, ya en un flyer, enviando, diciéndolo, repitiéndolo y haciéndolo. Ella dio el ejemplo, ¿verdad?, del mariachi, que también en música se puede decir, ¿verdad?, se contrarrestar la misinformación, y nosotros lo hacemos en dibujo. I was telling Elizabeth and Shirin that we do in drawing with our children, we really painting with our children that misinformation. And Melissa, look at this one, they was making for one of our painter, he is Jesse, 16 years from Everett. He do this painting, to say, to reveal how the coronavirus affect the world. And you can see is the world is being sucking for the coronavirus, the evil coronavirus, that he is bringing disease and devouring, the earth. Also, in this is Christopher from Sky. Those are children for migrant and refugee. Looking how beautiful is that information. When he has only 6 years and he put it the war, and you can see how the coronavirus is attacking, the war, and the war is crying and is protected with a mask, but he is still struggle. It's very, amazing, when you're giving our children, people believe they don't understand, but they understand. Look at this from Margarita. Oh my God, she had been in the hospital, and you see those people that is looking through the mirror, and this is the family of Margarita that they are crying. And you see the nurse, she do her like some divinity that is protecting her, but you see she is severely ill, and she feeling that the COVID-19 is over her and she cannot move from the COVID-19, And this is the information that we're using. And then, say, the pregnant women also need to protect, the children with the vaccine, and we have the women here. Entonces, en todos estos dibujos que hemos presentado, ustedes han visto el primer dibujo del niño que estaba devorando, la tierra se hacía devorada por el COVID-19, que es de un niño de 11 años, el segundo dibujo de un niño de 6 años, Chris, ¿verdad?, de Sky, el primero de Everett, y en ese dibujo está la tierra siendo devorada por el COVID-19, la tierra está llorando y está muy triste, y en el tercero una madre cargando un niño diciendo que las madres embarazadas sí se pueden vacunar. Well, the COVID-19 has been very bad in our population. We have a lot of people have died. I don't know any family, and please, if you listen to me, let me know that it's Latina that have not lost one member of the family or one friend. This is the way that have been affecting, and you can see in the painting that the children reveal. The world is sad, the world is crying, the world have been devouring. Either they had the mask, people are still suffering. This is la comunicación, you can puedes usar la pintura, en esa pintura ustedes han visto cómo es afectado y todo. I wanted, before we continue, we have only 10 minutes more, that happen faster. We are going to see one of our commercial, and we continue with this beautiful thing. And thank you, Ernesto, you have done a very good job to translate it. And thank you, and coming with the commercial.
La verdad es que las personas que se contagian del COVID-19 están muriendo por el virus y no por la vacuna. La vacuna es segura, vacúnate.
Vacúnate.
¡Yeah!
Este mensaje es patrocinado por Community Health Worker Coalition for Migrants and Refugees y el Departamento de Salud del Estado de Washington. Para más información, visita doh.gov/COVID-19.
Well, we're very happy to join that commercial because it's part of the money, the funding we use and that you're giving to us. And you can see as a family with the children. I always have a lot of faith in children because they are the future. You know, it's very difficult to change the mentality of the people, but it's unbelievable the way and the perception that they get from this COVID-19. And you can see how he's happy when they say vacunate, you know, like put it in the chat, hey, because for them, they don't have the choice to vaccinate. And they see the parent very sick and they see maybe friend very sick and they don't want it to get sick. You know? And this is nice because there are many indigenous communities in our culture that they don't believe in the vaccine, you know. And this is my last question maybe is how, based on your experience, how different communities have reached people that really feel culture, they don't believe in this. You know, like they don't believe that vaccine because they don't use the vaccine because they live in a little town when they have a shaman, you know. La pregunta que estoy haciendo a las muchachas es cómo ellas han estado abordando el tema de las personas que no se quieren vacunar, you know, porque no creen en la vacuna.
Yeah, I would say that it's just so important that community members are making these decisions on their own. I mean, COVID is impacting all of us. It's really important to, you know, reach out to your doctor or healthcare provider that you trust to get information and guidance on the vaccine is right for you. But, you know, there's a lot of data out there to show that it's been really effective at curbing the spread, at reducing hospitalizations and death in COVID-19. And so, you know, really just important to, if you have questions or concerns, share those. I'm sure, you know, the CHW CMR team is happy to, you know, respond to your questions as well about the vaccine. And so, you know, really just exploring it, I think being open-minded to it is kind of the first step for some folks who are maybe still hesitant.
Ok, ya lo que comentó es de que las vacunas, pues cada quien tiene que hacer su propia decisión de ponérsela o no, pero es muy importante que tengan todos los recursos y toda la información de las vacunas, cómo ha bajado los niveles de hospitalización y también los niveles de que no se contagie la gente por el virus.
Así es, gracias Ernesto. Y tenemos a Normita. Normita say amazing drawing. and Elizabeth and Norma, Melissa, can you put the first graphic that is another of the graphic we have been done for you? This is the book that we have about the truth about the COVID-19, and we send it to all the people that we training. And it's very cultural appropriate because have the color that the people use, the running for the community health worker. And another slide, Melissa, is like you can see here, no, people is talking about the difference between the Johnson and the Pfizer, and in the way that everybody recognize this. And Ernesto mentioned, you know, the ARN o de ARN mensajero, ¿verdad? Es la que se le pone en la vacuna y que no permite que el virus entre, y eso es lo que ven ustedes en el otro, y el virus, pues, son cosas así, pero this is what we try to do, you know. We are very happy because either in our community health worker, we have people that doesn't believe in the vaccine, you know, they have hesitance, but in taking these courses, maybe they are not ready either in the first time. But they taking again and you repeat again. And maybe at the third or fourth time, they say, I'm going to get the vaccine. And finally they get it. And, you know, this is why it's good because you have to repeat and repeat and repeat the message and repeat the truth. And if something we need to learn from the misinformation is to be persistent, you know, because they are very persistent. And they say the same thing again and again. And there are a theory that as much you repeat something, either it's false, you ending believing in that. You know, yo le estoy diciendo que es muy importante, y eso es lo que nosotros hacemos, es repetirle a la población la verdad y la verdad y la verdad, porque si hay algo que tenemos que aprender de la misinformación o de la información que no es honesta, es que ellos la repiten y la gente la escucha tanto que cree que es verdad, pero no es verdad. Then I'm going to tell you, keeping informed, about, organization like We Are the Age, that organization that had a lot of experience in working, with the Department of Washington State, and they get all the resources from CDC, from the Washington Department of Health, to see what is the truth, because not everything that you see in the media or in Facebook is the truth. Like, look, all of this is not true. It's not true, that you are going to get win o cola. Entonces, lo que les quiero decir es que manténganse informados, no le crean a esta misinformación, no es verdad que, miren el chip que grande, no pueden poner un chip en una vacuna, eso es mentira y no te vas a convertir en un alien o un extraterrestre, no te va a salir colas ni alas. Entonces, manténganse informados de fuentes, busquen información con We Are the Age. Ellos trabajan junto con el Departamento de Washington de Salud y con el CDC, y esas son informaciones benignas, o todas esas 115 organizaciones que están trabajando con We Are the Age. Because We Are the Age is not going to sponsor somebody that is spreading misinformation. Then, if you can contact this 115 organization in the state that are you people, you community, then you can believe in that. Ernesto?
Si pueden, una de las informaciones más importantes es la que compartió la doctora, que el compartimiento de información es muy importante. Estamos mostrando los paquetes que estábamos enviando, estos son los que enviamos, y también que no se crean de las misinformaciones, busquen la información real, aquí está todo en nuestros libretos, esta información que es muy, muy certera, que dice que no te va a salir alas, no te va a salir cola, un chip no cabe en una gota líquida, para que tengan esas percepciones y tengan el razonamiento, porque es misinformación, y aquí les tenemos la información real, y no nos contratarían, no nos afiliaríamos a algo que esté dando misinformación.
Así es. And Elizabeth, do you believe, because I traveling last week, and I was so afraid because most of the people was not using face masks. And I know not everybody is vaccinated. And I believe we forgot about COVID-19, but I don't believe the COVID-19 forget about us. What you can telling us, communicator, in the first place, what you wanted to say us to recommend my population about how they can protect it now, because for me it's very difficult, because I don't believe we are free from the COVID-19. I believe that we want to believe that because we are tired, I am tired too, but I believe we shouldn't not believe that everything is okay because it's not okay. Néstor?
La pregunta es de que, ¿qué recomendaciones nos darían a nosotros y a los participantes, a los community health workers y a todo el público en general de cómo buscar, de cómo pedir más ayuda, de cómo, cuál recomendación es, ya que cambiaron el tipo de restricciones, ya que hay más gente sin máscara y no todos han sido vacunados? ¿Qué recomendaciones nos darían? Go ahead.
I think the first thing to remember is that there are things that you can do to protect yourself. It's not hopeless. You can stay up to date with your boosters, and you can choose to wear a mask even if nobody around you is. And you can get free tests to check your status after you've been out in public around people without masks, so that if you do contract COVID-19, you find out right away and you can stay home and avoid spreading it. It's easy to feel overwhelmed and like it's impossible to do anything at this point, but it's not impossible. We do have some tools that we can use. I think the other thing that I would say is that for the people who are still taking all that care and effort to stop the spread, number one, thank you. Number two, it's also easy to get a little bit frustrated and angry at the people who aren't doing it. But it's important to remember that doesn't help either. And that if we can show a little bit of understanding to people who aren't wearing the mask, who just who have kind of given up, not to start conflict, but instead to show I am wearing my mask, to say I am going to get my booster. And hopefully the people who have gotten a little bit more lax will see your good example, will appreciate your effort, and maybe they'll come alongside you and restart some of those measures too.
Lo que ella compartió, dice que lo más importante es de que está en nosotros podemos hacer el cambio, nosotros podemos seguir usando nuestra mascarilla, podemos seguir poniéndonos nuestros refuerzos y también podemos seguir haciéndonos pruebas, porque está en nosotros seguir haciéndonos pruebas para poder mantener seguros a los nuestros, a nuestra gente y a uno mismo. También gracias porque a las personas que sí le importa, a las personas que aún están al pendiente de la pandemia, que ahí se están viendo cómo sigue impactando, aunque no se ha erradicado, no se ha eliminado, sigue ahí, nos está esperando. Y también que tenemos que hacer conciencia al usar las máscaras. Usamos las máscaras, estamos promoviendo un lugar seguro para los demás que quieren usar máscaras, no importa si estén 100 personas alrededor y seas la única persona usando la mascarilla, puedes usar la mascarilla al vacunarse, compartir que ustedes sí usan su mascarilla, que ustedes sí se vacunan, se ponen sus refuerzos. Eso es lo más importante, y que también que estén al pendiente de que todavía la pandemia está activa.
Thank you, Ernesto. And something that I want to reinforce that Elizabeth said, the widows of Elizabeth and Chiri is great. You know, we have a lot of things, and it's important, you know, for us, because Latino, we are passionate, and we have the tendency to confront people and say, oh, why you are not using the mask? Que no es necesario pelear cuando se tiene alguien que no usa la máscara, pero ustedes den el ejemplo. Yo sí uso mi máscara y me la voy a poner. Y tal vez ellos aprendan así. Yo creo que eso es lo que hacen los yard signs. I believe the yard sign, this is the function that they have, is to remind you, you know, the truth. And then this is what I like that, you know, the yard sign for people. Entonces, no peleemos, pero nosotros sí protejámonos. Andemos nuestra botellita, ¿verdad?, de desinfectantes y pongámonos la máscara. Y esperemos que nosotros nos sigan, ¿verdad? Así que, Shireen, I wanted to give you also the opportunity to talk about something that you wanted to let our community to listen from you.
Yeah, I definitely want to echo what Elizabeth shared. I think really, really great tips. I think that, you know, as the guidance continues to change, there are a lot of ways to continue to stay safe, you know, to continue to mask where it makes sense. And you know, even if that makes you more comfortable to mask outdoors, do that, you know, to keep your distance, to be thinking about, you know, if you're in a shared setting, a living setting, rather than all of you all going out to places, you know, if it makes sense that one individual goes, to kind of reduce the risk of spread or getting the virus. Those are all, you know, really important things to think about to keep yourself and your family safe.
También quería hacerle eco a lo que mencionó Elizabeth. Algo que a ella le gustaría mencionar es que poner más conciencia de dónde vivimos, cómo salimos, dónde vamos, si compartimos la casa, si formamos un grupo de personas que no somos familia y que uno sale más que los demás. Hay que ser conscientes, usar las mascarillas y también tratar de encomendar a la gente que se vacune. Si estás en el mismo hogar, también estar todos vacunados para así reducir el riesgo.
Gracias, Ernesto. For my side, I wanted to also to repeat everything that has been said here. And I believe the most important is pónganse su vacuna, pónganse sus refuerzos y sigan utilizando. Por ejemplo, yo si voy a la calle, sí voy a usar la máscara. Si estoy en un lugar público, sí voy a usar la máscara. Si voy a un hospital, sí voy a usar la máscara. Si voy al store donde hay mucha gente, yo voy a usar la máscara porque yo sí me respeto mi vida y la de los demás y voy a tener mi hand sanitizer. Así que I wanted to tell to everybody that I wanted to repeat what this wonderful communicator said to us. And one thing is, yes, I'm going to use to put my vaccine, all my doses and my booster. And if I go to a public place, yes, I will use the mask. Like, for example, I go to the hospital, of course, I'm going to wear my mask. I go to the market, of course, I'm going to wear the mask. Either if nobody's wearing, I'm going to use my mask with my hand sanitizer because this is my vow with the community and my family that I love. Así que gracias y creo que es un programa muy importante porque habla de muchas cosas importantes acerca del COVID-19 y creo que el COVID-19 no se ha acabado. Nosotros nos olvidamos un poquito de él, pero que tenemos que tener cuidado. I believe that this is very important information today because the COVID-19 has not gone. And maybe we forgot him, but he hasn't forgot us or her. We don't know, or there, they hasn't forgot us. Also, no quiero irme sin felicitar a Normita Castillo, que nos dice amazing drawing, and Araceli Cortés, that she say good evening. And gracias a todos. Un beso from Community Health Worker, los originales radio. Es un placer, un honor trabajar con todos ustedes. A pleasure and honor working with all of you, and thank you, Elizabeth and Shirin, for being here today with us, and Ernesto for make the translation that is the more difficult part.
Oye, Guillermina, la verdad, nosotros ya podemos recibir el segundo refuerzo de la vacuna del COVID-19.
Porque las personas inmunodeprimidas y mayores de 50 años tienen mayor posibilidad de contraer enfermedades graves.
Nosotras ya nos vacunamos. Vacúnate.
Este mensaje